We love betting. We love over-unders. We love
Don't
college
we?
football.
Yeah.
What if we were to tell you that we're going to preview based upon excellent statistical analysis, not by us, because we're
Well,
morons?
you said excellent.
I said excellent, and yes,
There
that's
you go.
correct. We have scientific data that's going to
Mhm.
go through numbers of teams that may hit the over on 9 wins total this year. We're going to go through that list and tell you which ones we think are guarantees, locks, if you will, very early season locks, and which ones aren't. Next on Locked On Bull.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Locked On Bulldogs podcast. Your team every day. I am Daniel. He is Clint. And today we're talking about the 2023 college football season.
Mm-hmm.
We are not talking about the SEC scheduling model. And so you can all rest easy because we're done with that.
We're done.
The conversation is finished. It's over. And FanDuel is the appropriate sponsor of this episode of the podcast because you're going to want to get over to FanDuel right now. We're going to talk to you about it more in a second, but just go ahead and be making your way over there as we begin to talk. Because we're going to give you some lines. We're going to give you some things that are going to be advantageous to you because we're talking about season win totals, Clint.
Yeah.
So explain to the people, set the people up what we're doing today, and I'm going to work on getting these overlays in place.
Ooh,
we got
look at my
visual
man.
aids. If you're listening on the
There we
podcast,
go. Thank you. I was just going to say.
get on over to the YouTube to
Yep.
check this episode out. But if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the audio podcast. You can come back to YouTube and watch. That's fine. But subscribe to the audio podcast. That
Double
helps
dip.
us out.
It's totally fine. Here, it's totally fine.
It's fine. You double dip. It's like putting your whole face in the dip.
Don't take the Twinkie off the top of the trash, but double dipping in this instance, totally fine. I'm going to set up what an over-under is, how this was given. Dawgs stats, if you haven't followed him, go over to Twitter.
God, what a
Dawgs
guy.
Stats. He is the best. We love this man. Josh is fantastic. Get over there, Dawgs stats. He put together a statistical analysis last year of over-unders and teams that were expected, or the percentage of expected to get over the win total. So the win total is put out 10, 9, 10.5, 9.5, whatever it is. If you bet your team to get over that amount of wins, then your ticket cashes on that.
That's nice. I like it when a ticket cashes.
I like going to that window with a ticket that says, give me money.
Mm-hmm.
This is the last year's teams that had a percentage of getting or had a win total placed, and then the teams that exceeded that win total. Ohio State with 10.5, Georgia 10.5, Michigan 9.5, USC 9.5. All four of those teams did in fact cover that.
It's right there.
It's right. Look
It's right there on your screen.
It's right there. You could see that. This is from Dawgs stats. His Twitter handle's down there, and you could see the implied odds. So Ohio State had a 67%, Georgia has 66%, Michigan 52%, USC 48%, and they all cashed. Alabama
all that means is that
and had a 69% chance implied of getting that over.
Yeah, all that means is that coming into the season, those implied odds, how likely did it seem, based on their returning production, that they would, in fact, cash that over? Only 4 of the 11 teams from 2022 who had a 9+ win total hit the over, meaning it's a minority of those teams. You need to be very careful when you're taking those teams to bet the over. And coming into the season, Alabama, as you said, had a 69% chance implied odds to hit that over on 10.5 wins. That's because they had the single greatest returning roster in the history of football.
That roster makeup, it was over 1,000.
Everybody else under. History of football, the greatest returning roster ever assembled.
Hit the over, and they couldn't win the Natty. So
couldn't win 11 games or make the playoff.
Oh no.
So you need to be careful when you're betting on teams with the 9+ win total. So we're going to go through some of these teams with the 9+ win total from 2023. Some of which you may think like, oh, that's a good team. They're definitely going to hit that over. You need to be careful about that. And so we're going to look at some of these. So
the number is crucial. y'all.
We're gonna pull these. We're gonna pull these up. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see. If you're listening on audio, we'll talk you through it. But let's start at the top. Obviously, Georgia at 11.5 wins. Now, implied odds based on returning production,
insane,
based on everything that's here. Implied odds less than 50% that Georgia hits that over. 45%.
There's almost a coin flip. They go perfect, Daniel.
That's correct.
That's
but
insane.
But I think if you talk to Georgia fans, they're going to tell you, well, we're going to be favored in every game. There's no team on our schedule that's better than us. All of these things are true.
Sure.
But when you stack these things up against each other over and over and over again over the course of 12 games, it's not that any individual game Georgia won't be the heavy favorite.
No.
It's that over the course of 12 games, the likelihood of something going wrong and Georgia dropping a game is greater than the likelihood of them not. So,
yeah.
While we both like Georgia to go 12-0,
sure,
it's a bit of a risky bet. I'll just be the first to say on this podcast, it's not my first run to the window and place a bet.
I got others
this year. I got other things that I'm interested in when it comes to betting. So let's get to
I'm
gonna pull this
the spread in the cocktail party. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that one I like.
Whatever.
Is Billy Napier still the coach?
Yes.
Then sure. All right, let's get to some people that we like more. Okay, so when you look at these teams, given the fact that it's probably going to be a minority of these teams that actually hit the over.
And 4 total last year over 9 wins.
I got them pulled up on the screen, but we'll talk it through for the audio listeners. Clint, who's your favorite team to hit the over this year who has a 9+ win total?
You start right out of the top and you look at the production coming back and you look at their schedule, and Michigan leaps out to me as somebody who can get that 11. I'm not saying I would run to the window, but Michigan stands out to me in that conference with that schedule, with everybody coming back. It seems to me, especially with Ohio State losing CJ Stroud and what happens there, that's intriguing to me, Daniel.
81% of their total production returned from last year. That's a playoff team.
Yep.
Last year, beat Ohio State. Last year, and 81% of their total production returns for Michigan. I mean, Dawgs Stats has got them at a 55% chance to hit the over on 10.5 wins. I'll give you my favorite one. It's Clemson.
Yeah.
I think Clemson is primed. I think they have finally – DJ had to transfer to save Dabo Swinney's life.
Because couldn't get out of his own way.
He could not – the man could not get out of his own way. But he is now forced to start Cade Klubnik, who is the superior quarterback by a mile.
100%.
And Clemson's sitting there at 9.5 wins in the lowly ACC. I don't think – I think South Carolina is maybe primed for a bit of a regression this year from all of the hype that's in front of it. And so even that game doesn't look as scary to me when I look at Clemson. But you're telling me all I got to do is get 10 wins. It's 59% implied odds according to Dawgs Stats that this team goes over. It's one of the highest ones on the list. And so that's one of my favorite overs for a high win total team.
I love it. We're going to come back right after this. But first, let's talk about FanDuel. FanDuel is the place that you need to go to do all of these we're talking about, all these over-unders, all these places that you can go get sportsbook and go get action and put your hard-earned money down. FanDuel is the place that Daniel and I trust the most. They're the official Locked On Bulldogs sportsbook. They're the official sportsbook of Locked On Podcasts. They are fantastic. They're secure, reliable, easy to use, great interface, and most importantly, you get to have fun in the offseason of scouring over this, getting stats, getting understanding from Dawgs Stats, applying it, seeing where teams before was. Look, we're doing you a favor. Go put that money down on there, and now you're excited for the season coming around. You were already going to be excited, but now this gives you a little bit more excitement to invest in some team that you hate, like Clemson, and just have some fun with ACC, which when was the last time you got to say that, people?
I mean, I can't. The betting is the only way that you can have fun with the ACC.
FanDuel.com/lockedon. No sweat first bet. Get over there right now. If your first bet doesn't cash as a new client, you get $1,000 in bonus bets back. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, Clint. Let's go back in here and segment one, we gave you our favorite bets.
Yeah.
segment 2, we're going to give you our favorite unders.
There we go.
Okay,
Here
so
we go.
I'm going to pull the list back up. But teams with, let's just go through quickly. Teams with a season win total of over 9 are Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, USC, Florida State, LSU, Tulane, Tennessee, Penn State, Clemson, Texas, Oregon, Oklahoma, Toledo, Washington, Notre Dame, and Liberty, which is not on this sheet, but is also a 9 win total. Of those schools, Clint, who do you like to go under this win total the most?
Here's a team that I did not think was going to show up on this list. And I mean, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe it's 1992 again. And Bowden is back down leading Florida State. Florida State 10 win total. Now, here's what this means.
10 wins.
A push. They have games against 12 games on the schedule. They have games against LSU, and they also have games against Clemson. Okay, those two right there. They lose those. All you
push
can
is
hope
your
for
best
is
bet
a push right there. And I'm telling you, LSU might only win or lose one game this entire year, maybe on that. I have them going back to the SEC championship to begin the season. And Clemson, as you say, finally has a competent quarterback and a roster that is loaded all the way throughout. And Dabo has shown with a talented quarterback, he can do things. Okay. And that's what they have.
Absolutely.
Right
No disputing. Yeah.
Florida State has to win one of those games, Daniel.
They have to go over this. And they have to not lay an egg in any of the rest of the games on their schedule. North Carolina got a great quarterback. Mac Brown has a decent team in North Carolina. There's a lot of things that could go wrong.
They have to go. I mean, Miami. You're telling me Miami's not going to get it for that game, trying to turn some things around? I know they're a bad team. I know. But every single year, the ACC is. What about Syracuse? What about them throwing some wrenches in the system? What about Pitt? Pitt's been a sneaky good team for a very long time, well coached all the way throughout. I think that's my team that I'd put an eye on to say, not so fast.
Yeah, it's interesting. The hype around Florida State this year is higher than it is for any other team. So I hear you saying you didn't necessarily expect him to see him on this list, but I think it's the hype machine is kind of out of control on that bandwagon. Now, there's a lot of places I think I could go here, but I think Tennessee's an easy one. We've been taking shots at Tennessee this year. Based on returning production and 3-year averages, Dawgs has only got them at a 42% chance of going over that 9.5 win total. Again, you look at the schedule, it's Georgia and Alabama. And so for Tennessee to go over 9.5 wins, they have to win every other game on their schedule. I pause for dramatic effect. With Joe Milton at quarterback.
Oh, no. But, hey, if he figures out his arm, it's going to be dangerous.
We didn't even talk about this yesterday.
I know.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. I have no idea.
How does one not have their arm figured out?
What do I do with this thing? What's this appendage?
Like, what is the rotator cuff for? Like, I don't know how to.
The elbow is connected to. Like, sing that song again.
It's
like,
tough. It's tough.
It is.
Tennessee. I don't think they're going to go perfect on the rest of their schedule. I think this is a big. You have got to put a lot of trust in Josh Heupel's ability to just plug and play. Because you want to talk about returning production lost.
Here it goes.
Like, let's just start with Hendon Hooker. And I know Tennessee beat Clemson without Hendon Hooker in that bowl game. Sure. I get it. Clemson's the team I just said I think is going to go over their win total. Tennessee's now a team I said they're going to go under their win total. I get it. Hendon Hooker lost. Jalen Hyatt lost. What's the other kid's name? The other receiver, I can't even remember his name, got drafted right next to Jalen Hyatt.
Sure.
Both of them, Tillman, gone to the NFL. Can Josh Heupel just instantly insert new players into his magical system and churn out another? Now, Kirby Smart can do that on defense. We know that because we've seen that.
3 years in a row.
Can Josh Heupel do that? He might.
He very well may.
He might. But we don't know that because we haven't seen that. And if you're telling me he has to be perfect in his winnable games, I'm only giving him 10 winnable games on the schedule, and he has to be perfect in them to go over, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put my money on the fact that he will not be perfect in those games. I said on yesterday's podcast, he's losing to either South Carolina, Florida, or Kentucky, or maybe two of those teams this year. And so, yeah, give me that Tennessee under 9.5 wins. That's my favorite one.
Loyal third segment listeners, come on back for our last guesses of who's actually going to hit the over. We'll hit them rapid fire next. Hey, 199, thanks for being here. If you're part of the 199, thank you. Loyal third segment listeners, they all know. Get over right now to bonfire.com/store/the199. Get some merch like the Here Comes the Death March that you see me wearing right now. Get over there.
The Death Merch. Go get the Death Merch.
The Death Merch is there. That's exactly
also,
right.
subscribe to the Dad Pod at
Please.
the Dad Pod, guys, on YouTube. Go scout out that channel and hit the subscribe button. We would appreciate that. All right, Clint.
Yes.
We got a bunch of other schools here, and we're just going to rapid fire them. Okay?
Okay.
You already mentioned Michigan.
I have.
So we're going to start with Ohio State. 10.5 wins. What do you like here?
I don't like it, Daniel. I'm going to say.
I think the quarterback is a concern.
It's a concern for me. I think they'll be fine. Ohio State fan, don't hear me. They'll be fine. But 10.5, they got to. No, I don't like it.
I actually like the Ohio State over more than the Michigan over. I cannot imagine a world where Michigan beats Ohio State 3 years in a row.
I'm telling you,
I just cannot imagine a world where I give Jim Harbaugh that much credit.
Well, you don't have to give him credit, Daniel. But it's
Well, if he beats Ohio State 3 years in a row, it's a lot of it's credit where credit's due. Alabama 10.5 wins. This year it's only a 43% implied odds. It's interesting. Last year it was much higher, but returning production, we're talking about 40%. Just to be clear, Michigan returns 81% of its production.
Okay, that's a lot.
Alabama returns less than half of that, 40% of its total production coming back from last year.
But to be fair, Daniel, sometimes subtraction is addition, and To'o is no longer going to be roaming the middle of that field. So
I see your To'o, and I raise you Will Anderson and Bryce Young. So I don't. Sometimes subtraction is subtraction. Sometimes when you subtract,
you tell me who's going to be the quarterback, Alabama. I'll wait.
You subtract. Sometimes Tommy Reese is brought in to run the offense.
Okay.
Alabama, give me the under. Just give me that.
Okay, so Alabama, yes. USC, give me the over on this. Daniel, it's
10 wins.
That's a good number. It's the Pac-12. I think they're going to cannibalize. I think USC gets snuck up one time, but their schedule looks favorable.
Lincoln Riley, Caleb Williams. I think that's a push. Yeah. If I had to bet it, I'd bet the over, but I stay away. We've already talked about Florida State. LSU, we both like the over.
Over.
It's 9.5. We both like the over on that one. Even if they lose to Florida State and Alabama, the two toughest games on their schedule, they could still cash that over, and I think they still will cash that over. Let's look at Penn State, 9.5 wins. They got Michigan and Ohio State. Are they going to get one of those? And then can they go perfect the rest of the season? I probably like the under on 9.5, but I wouldn't. I think it's 9 or 10. I think 9.5 is right in there. I probably wouldn't touch it.
That's a great number. It's a stay away from me. Clemson, we've already touched on. Texas, 9.5. Texas, all of a sudden, getting the same sort of hype that Florida State is getting.
Quinn. The mighty Quinn.
Yep. Have fun with that. This is a stay away from me as well. 9.5. They have to look. I just don't think they have the complete roster. They've shown it time and time again. They haven't been recruiting the same level they have. Development's not there. So this is a stay away from me as well. They could sneak up, but everybody's picking them. Even Marler picking Texas to beat Alabama. I don't know if you knew that, Daniel. He has been on record of saying that Alabama will lose to Texas.
That's an emotional hedge.
It is.
That man is competent in the art of emotional hedging, and he is. That's what he's doing. Last one I think that's interesting to me is Oklahoma. They're on this list because of the name of their school and the name of their school alone. Oklahoma was bad last year.
Very.
Don't hear me say that they were bad for Oklahoma standards. They were bad. What I said was, give me all the bacon and eggs that you have. What I said was Oklahoma was a bad football team, and do they have a competent head coach?
That I know. The answer is no.
It doesn't look great, at least.
I thought you were going to ask, do they have a competent quarterback? That I don't know.
We don't know that.
Do they have a competent head coach? I definitively know.
9.5 wins for Oklahoma. Again, people are only thinking about this because it's hard to imagine an Oklahoma team not winning 10 games. Again, it's like if you were to say Ohio State, it's not going to win 10 games. Alabama, not going to win 10 games.
If I gave you an over-under, when Oklahoma gets the SEC, that they finish in the bottom half of the SEC, would you take that?
Yes.
I would as well.
If Oklahoma were and Texas were in the SEC this year,
yeah,
I think Oklahoma would finish at the halfway point or just into the bottom half of the SEC. I think there are many teams in the SEC that are definitively better than Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'd pick Ole Miss above Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'd certainly pick A&M above Oklahoma. I'd certainly pick Tennessee above Oklahoma.
I would as well.
I think it'd be a coin flip between South Carolina and Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
I'd certainly pick Texas over Oklahoma. There's just Oklahoma is down a little bit right now. Now they're not going to stay down.
No. There's too much money and too much pride in that state.
Absolutely.
100%.
But it was not a good first year last year. And so we might move straight from first year to last year if we don't hurry up and get things turned around in Norman. So we shall see.
This has been Locked On Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Thanks, Dawgs Stats.
Dawgs Stats.
Go follow him.
Please go
follow him. Also, he was on the Dad Pod this week.
Go listen
to the Dad Pod and check him out on there. The man's everywhere.
He's
Synergy.
Everywhere. I can't stop him.
Synergy.
Can't stop, won't stop. This has been Locked On Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. We'll see y'all next time.
See ya.